She-Hulk time again. Only 2 more episodes after this one. But this one is going to be a slog, because spoiler, almost nothing happens. From the intro, the episode is mostly going to be about Emil Blonsky, being played by Tim Roth. Now I like Tim Roth, quite a lot actually. There's just nothing for him to work with in this script. And it doesn't look like he can even be bothered with it. Now I like Tim Roth for all the obvious stuff. Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, but I also liked him for some of the films that nobody ever talks about. He did a good job in Rob Roy with Liam Neeson, and Captives with Julia Ormond. And before I watched that film, I would have thought it would be difficult to do an appealing sex scene in a prison toilet, but God bless them, they managed it. In that film, Tim Roth was in prison, and Julia Ormond came in as the prison dentist of all things. Weird plot, I know, but there is an immediate sexual tension between Ormond and Roth's characters. It's the forbidden fruit effect, and it just makes it all hotter. She's also in a position of power over him, but also has to show caring, and that, in addition to Julia Ormond smouldering through the entire film, make it a bit uncomfortable to watch with your parents. And that is when things get awkward, because once she tastes that forbidden fruit, she's in trouble. Now the power dynamic has shifted, and if he tells on her, she'd be in real trouble. As the film goes on, it all spirals out of control. Now, I currently have a female dentist who's a sadist, and she sexually assaults me every time I go for an appointment. Every single time. Which may sound bizarre to listeners around the world. I suppose you may be thinking, why do you put up with that? It's partly because I don't care. In addition, you have to understand how hard it is to find a good NHS dentist in the UK. So if she wants to put her nipple in my ear while she's looking at my teeth, I'll play dumb and pretend I don't know what's going on. As long as she doesn't try and put her hand down my trousers. And if anything, dental work goes better, I find, if I spend the whole appointment being motorboated anyway. Where was I? Oh yeah, She-Hulk, attorney at law. I mean, I'm just saying, if my dentist was Julia Ormond from Captives, I would make more regular dental appointments. I'd maybe even go to prison for it. I'd have the most well cared for teeth in that whole damn prison. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, I was supposed to be talking about She-Hulk. Do I have to? I mean, I think I'd have more fun at this point reviewing my dentist. I had to watch this episode twice again. I could have been watching Captives instead. I could be watching Julia Ormond making sexy noises while she pretends to get railed by Tim Roth against a wall. I've only seen that movie once. I saw this episode of She-Hulk twice, so don't be surprised if my next review is on Captives. That's all I'm saying. And I probably wouldn't even complain if Julia Ormond... Actually, if I carry on like this, there's a risk I may overshare. And this is, after all, supposed to be a She-Hulk review. I'm just saying, I really hope that Tim Roth lives a long life after this and carries on acting. Because when I look at his IMDb page, if he has an accident and dies, and the last thing he did in his career was She-Hulk attorney at law, it would be tragic. So the episode starts up, and Jen's relationship with Josh seems to be going well. There's a montage of Jen getting love-struck and wanting to meet Josh, while terrible, mawkish, vomit-inducing music plays in the background. After a few dates, Jen and Josh slowly get closer, and after 3 or 4 dates, he walks her to a door and she drags him inside. And this is unusually patient for Jen. On her past form from this season, I'm surprised she didn't do him at the wedding. They go back to her place, and mercifully the camera doesn't follow them. When Jen wakes up in the morning, Josh has already gone, which is a bit rude. Maybe he had to go to work, but he could have at least left a note. Jen messages him in the morning, and he never gets back to her. Jen goes to the office, and we learn that Jen is up for an award. Female Lawyer of the Year, but she keeps on checking her phone, and there's still nothing from Josh. They then cut to the next day, Saturday, and Josh still hasn't called. We have a minute of montage of Jen checking her phone while she does a lot of different activities, and my god, this is tedious. This may have worked better without a montage for their relationship. It would have given the audience the opportunity to see them bond, and it would have hit harder when he started to ghost her. On the other hand, I would have had to watch it. And in all this time, Jen has been wondering where Josh has gone, but she never once asks herself if he could have had a car accident. Could he be in hospital or in genuine need of help? Could he be in trouble? Because since she's become She-Hulk, trouble has followed her everywhere she's gone, and if he is in trouble, it could be her fault. Is there anyone she could contact who may know where Josh has gone? Maybe she could contact the intensely annoying friend whose wedding it was. Maybe she'd know, but instead, all Jen seems to care about is herself, as usual. But Jen is not asking herself if she could have done something horribly wrong to offend Josh, and that's what I'd be asking myself in her position. Did she do anything wrong? Did she ask him to do something weird in bed? She kind of seems the type to get to a key moment and then start calling you daddy. Or you could get to her place and she tells you that due to some trauma, she can only climax if you're both dressed as Colonel Sanders. But as usual for these writers, there's no introspection, there's no thinking of anybody but themselves, and there's absolutely no accountability. Sunday comes and Josh still hasn't called, and at this point, I feel the growing need to point out that this is supposed to be a legal superhero comedy show, and this episode has provided none of that. Jen then gets a phone call and immediately thinks it's Josh. She wants him to reply so much. She wants his attention, but she doesn't care enough to find out if he's bleeding to death in a ditch somewhere or has been kidnapped by one of her many enemies. And thank heavens Superman wasn't like this. Lois Lane got kidnapped about twice a week and needed rescuing, and it's a damn good job he didn't assume the worst when she didn't reply to a single message. And he was doing that before they were even dating. Jen is maybe the worst superhero I've ever seen. On the phone, it's instead Emil Blonsky's parole officer. It turns out something has gone wrong with Blonsky's inhibitor that prevents him from turning into the Abomination. The parole officer wants She-Hulk there in case Blonsky has turned into the Abomination and he needs to control him, so Jen drives with him to check on Tim Roth. Checking her phone all the way and still nothing from Josh. On the road, Jen checks her phone many more times, then she sings along to Mbop, and she's asking for another auto accident. You'd think she'd learn from the last one where she nearly died, but no.
Could you make me a cup of tea, please, Stephanie?